Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Back in the garage today with the 99 Honda Accord 3.0 V6, and I'm going to be putting a timing belt in it along with a new water pump and possibly a new thermostat, and I'm going to see how the camshaft seals look and also the crankshaft seal, and see if I need to replace those as well. So first thing I'm going to do is jack up the front end, so you'll want to block your rear wheel first. So underneath the front of the car here, you want to locate this jack point here on the frame. We'll go ahead and place the jack there and start jacking it up. And then get you a pair of jack stands, locate this arrow, and we're going to place the jack stand right underneath there. Next, pop your hood. With your hood popped, first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is drain the cooling system. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the radiator cap here, and then underneath the passenger side front here, locate your drain petcock, which is going to be right there. Normally this car would have a skid plate, I believe, but on this particular car it's missing. So go ahead and get a container to drain your coolant in, and go ahead and unscrew this. And we'll go ahead and let that drain. So while that's draining, let's go ahead and remove the wheel. It's going to be a 19mm. Okay, so I just had a little mishap here. I had that coolant container on that block of wood to bring it closer to the radiator so it wasn't splattering all over the place. And I didn't have it centered, I guess, and it ended up tipping off that block of wood. As you can see, it spilled coolant everywhere, so I had to clean that up real quick. So make sure you guys don't do that. But anyway, with that wheel and tire off, that gives us more access to the crankshaft and all that here. And I think most cars will have a little plastic cover that fits right in here. But like I said earlier, this one's missing the front skid plate and looks to be missing this as well. As you can see, it looks like it must have broke off or something. But I think there's a couple tabs you got to take off to remove that cover. So go ahead and do that. And then you'll want to locate your belt tensioner, because we're going to remove the serpentine belt. It's going to be your tensioner here. That's going to be your tensioner pulley. And that's going to be a 14mm on that bolt there. And we're going to turn that counterclockwise just enough to pull this belt off. So go ahead and grab your 14mm. Stick that on. I just like to grab another wrench here and just kind of stick that up in there like that. Gives you a little more leverage. Go ahead and pull down, and you can see that tensioner moves. So let's go ahead and try and slip our belt off now. The crankshaft here. And then you can go ahead and let that go. And then back up top here, go ahead and just lift your belt off your alternator here. You drop it down. And then back down below, just go ahead and pull it off your AC compressor here. And pull it down. With your belt off, now's a good time to change it out or inspect it. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I got quite a bit of cracks on this, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. I ordered a new one, and then also a power steering belt as well. Not sure if they'll be here in time, but if not, I'll throw this one back on for now. So next I'm going to go ahead and take off the power steering belt. And on the pump here, you got a 12mm bolt right there. So let's go ahead and loosen that up. So with that one loose, now we need to get on the other side of the pump here, and we need to get to that nut right there, which is going to be a 12mm. So that nut is hard to get to because the motor mount in the way, but also this alternator wiring harness here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off that 10mm bolt there real quick. And now we got better access to that nut. And then you'll want to use a deep well 12mm to your ratchet to get to this. Still kind of hard to get to. So go ahead and loosen that. Now we can go ahead and remove this bolt all the way now. And then that should give us enough slack here to pull off the power steering belt here. So in order to get that power steering belt out, we're going to have to remove this motor mount first. So let's go underneath and we'll support the engine. And then if your radiator is all done draining, you can go ahead and tighten up that petcock drain there. So to support the engine, I'm just going to grab my jack and a couple blocks, and I'm just going to go straight underneath the oil pan here with the blocks. So just kind of like that, just to support it. You don't have to really jack it up. Just set it under and make sure it's sturdy there. So with that supported down below, grab yourself a 14mm and we'll remove these two bolts here. Next, grab a 17mm and we'll pull this bolt out right here. And then go ahead and remove the bracket here. Slides out like that. Now you should be able to slip your power steering belt off just over this. And then drop it down below there. And then kind of same thing, just inspect your power steering belt. You can see this one actually doesn't look too bad, but I already got a new one on order anyways. So next I'm going to go ahead and remove the crankshaft pulley or harmonic balancer. And once I get this off, I'll stick the bolt back in, and then I'll adjust the cams and all that to make sure the timing is right. And in order to take this pulley off, you need a special tool like this, which I got off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out. I think it was like 17 bucks or so. But what this does is it fits right up in here, so you're able to hold it, and then you use an impact to get that bolt out, and that'll help remove the pulley here. So what you want to do, grab your special tool, get that up in there, grab your impact, and this bolt's going to be a 19mm. Just like that. And then what you can do is just go ahead and pry side to side kind of. And so with that off, you want to be careful and make sure you don't lose this little key here. So keep track of that, make sure you don't lose it. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick my bolt back in here. And now we'll be able to still be able to turn the engine to get the timing set just right before we pull the timing belt. So next I'm going to remove the power steering pump. You can do this two ways. You can pull off this line here, which goes to your reservoir, or you can take off these two 10mm bolts, and then you can flip this high pressure line out of the way. But I'm going to do it this way. That way I can tip the pump up here out of the way instead of having to tip it back this way and being in the way of when I'm doing a timing belt. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this line off really quick. And then with that up, you can slide this power steering reservoir. Just kind of pull up on it and it slides out of the bracket right here. And then just kind of tip that up out of the way. Just kind of like that. And then I'm just going to take a rag here. Just kind of stick it in there so nothing gets down in that hose and I don't spill it everywhere. And then you may want to stick a rag underneath the pump here for whatever drips out. And let's go ahead and remove that nut down here so we can get the rest of the pump out. Should be already loose from when you were loosening it earlier. So that looks like. And now you should be able to just take your pump, slide it off that bottom bolt there, tilt it up. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing. Stick a rag in here. And then just tilt this up out of the way, top of the engine here. Next I'm going to go ahead and take off the right side camshaft cover here, timing cover. And there's going to be 5 bolts. You got one right here, and they're all going to be 10mm. Another one here, one right there, and right there by your alternator, and then down below right there, 10mm as well. So let's take those off. But before I pull that cover off, I'm going to go ahead and take this off first. Just grab a 10mm. And then it looks like I think we may have to move this dipstick in order to get that cover off as well, because this is going to be right in the way. So in order to get that dipstick tube off, it looks like I got a, you can kind of see right there, a 10mm bolt that we need to pull off. So let's go ahead and pull that off real quick. So as you guys saw, that was kind of hard to get to from up top, so I went down below. And then I believe we just pull it out, but I'm going to clean this up a little bit so nothing falls down in there. And then from up top, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up on it. See if it pops out of here. Yep. Just pops out like that. And then that's what your dipstick tube looks like. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick a, like I did up there, just a paper towel or a rag or some sort, and just kind of stick it in there. That way no small bolts or nuts or just dirt and debris falls down in there. Now with that dipstick out of the way, we can go ahead and remove our cover here. Like I said, grab your 10mm. So go ahead and pull that off. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do the same thing to the left cover here. And you're going to have the same 5 10mm bolts, except this side's going to be a little bit harder because you got all this in the way. So just take your time and get them out of there. And then on this middle center one, I'm going to try just a 1/4" breaker bar, because it's hard to get a socket in there because of these brake lines getting in the way. See if I can just bust it loose with a 1/4" breaker bar. Alright, so as you saw, the one back in here That one's the hardest to get to. I was able to reach around here and then break it loose with a 1/4 inch breaker bar, and then I was able to use it just the socket alone to twist it out by hand after that. And then I'll show you underneath here. So underneath, you can get to that other one right there. It's going to be right here. And mine wasn't even in there, so this one was missing on mine. But this one will be a lot easier to get to from under here. And actually, now that I'm under here, you can see right up there, that other back one might be easier from down below here to get those off. So now let's try to get this cover off. And it looks like we got this like wiring harness. It slides in the cap here, so if we can just pull that off or use a screwdriver, try and just kind of pry that out of there. And then we should be able to do the same thing, just kind of pull out. And just work its way out of here. Next we'll go ahead and take off the lower cover. We have a bolt here, right there, another one there, one here in the center, and then the other one is going to be up behind this pulley here. Back in there it's really hard to see, and these are all going to be 10 millimeters. And then you got another one right here, and then one more right up there. So let's go ahead and remove. And then the other cover bolt is actually easier to get up from under, up top here. Just right in there. And that dropped down. Once you get all 7 of those bolts out, let's go ahead and see if we can remove this cover now. Just slides off like that. So next I'm going to go ahead and line up my timing marks. But before I do that, go ahead and remove the crankshaft bolt again really quick, and I'm going to remove this. Go ahead and remove this, and then note the direction it goes. So it's going to go in there like that. Set that aside, because now I got a better view of my timing mark, which is going to be right there. So go ahead and screw this back in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this by hand clockwise until this timing mark down here, you can see this timing mark here is going to line up with that arrow right there on that. See where it's kind of black? So I'm going to rotate it until that lines up, and then up top here on your right camshaft, you're going to find the number 1 on that pulley there, and that's going to start rotating as well. See, there's a line there. You want to rotate. As you're rotating that, it's going to move up, and we need the number 1 to be in line with that. line up above here. And on the left camshaft sprocket here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's not numbered, and there's only a line. Like I said, it's hard to see, but there's the line right there, and there's only one line on the sprocket. So let's go ahead and start turning that. So just grab your 19mm and go ahead and start turning that crankshaft bolt by hand, clockwise, so you get all 3 timing marks lined up. About right there. Let me check the bottom here. So we're good down there. And we're good here on the left. So what I'm going to do is I got a little paint pen here. And I'm just going to make a mark just so I know exactly what we're looking at here. And then down below here you can see same thing. Arrows right there, and our mark is right here. So I'm just going to put a dab of paint on this too as well. And then on your left sprocket here, I already marked it. But like I said, it's kind of hard to see. You can see there's a line on the sprocket, and then there's one right here as well, which you need to get lined up with that mark right there. You can see my white paint mark. So with the timing marks all lined up and everything, I had bought new camshaft seals, but I got to look in here and everything looks dry around both of these sprockets for the camshafts. So I'm not going to replace those because that's quite a bit of work as well, and if they're not leaking, I'm not digging that far into it to replace them. Also, if it was leaking, you'd have oil all up in here and your belt would be covered in oil as well. But as you can see, my belt's dry and everything. So then go ahead and remove your bolt again here, your 19mm. Then you'll want to locate your timing belt tensioner. You got 2 bolts, one there, and then run one right above it. That's going to be 10mm. So let's go ahead and remove those. And before you do this, go ahead and double check. Just make sure your lines are both lined up down here and then on your 2 sprockets up there. Go ahead and remove your tensioner. So next we'll need to take off this motor mount bracket, but in order to get to those bolts, you got to go in through the side here. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to remove this motor mount real quick. And you got 3 14mm. You got one there on the back side here, and then another one right down in there. And then this one's here, it's kind of hard to get to. I'll just use a socket wrench style like that. Try to get on it. Then go ahead and Pull your motor mount out of here. Now with that out of the way, get this motor mount here. You got a bolt right under here, same with on the other side, and then there's one down below. All three are going to be 14 millimeters. And I'm going to try to get that third one broke free from underneath there. Looks like there's a 10 millimeter bolt here. Let's go ahead and take that off. Now we should be able to remove this, and I couldn't get the bottom bolt in, but once you take it off, you can see that it stays in there. Now we can go ahead and start removing the timing belt carefully. Next, we'll go ahead and remove our idler pulley, which is going to be a 14 millimeter. And then we'll go ahead and loosen this 14 millimeter for our tensioner pulley there. Next, we'll go ahead and start loosening up our water pump bolts. So you got 1, 2, 3 here. Let's go ahead and loosen those. And then we got 2 on the other side we'll have to do as well. So back up top here, you got 2 more bolts, one right there, one right here. And then I went ahead and grabbed a drip pan, because as soon as we pull that water pump off, coolant's going to come flowing out of there. And then also just make sure you got your paper towel inside your dipstick tube there, so no antifreeze gets down in your oil. Alright, so now we should be ready to pull the water pump. Again, just make sure you got your drain pan down there. And let's try pulling it. Alright, so with that pretty much drained now, let's go ahead and pull it the rest of the way off. Alright, so taking a look at our old one compared to our new one. See, they're pretty much the same thing. This one's a genuine Honda, whereas this one I got is a Gates 42316 that I just got from Rock Auto. And you can see the old one has like little tabs holding the gasket in whereas the new one doesn't have any of that, and the gasket just kind of falls out. So I'm just going to grab a little dielectric grease, put some on my finger here, and I'm just going to coat this gasket in it, and hopefully that'll hold it on to the water pump so it doesn't fall off when we're trying to install it. So go ahead and put your gasket on, figure out which way it goes here. So kind of like that. Let's go ahead and install it. And then I went ahead and just took some brake clean in a rag and cleaned up along the gasket surface there. So go ahead and grab your new water pump. And you'll notice you got these little dowels here. There's 2 of them. Another one right there. So make sure those go into place. And just make sure your gasket's lined up correctly. Grab your bolts. We'll get a few in here and we'll tighten them by hand, and then we'll do a final torque on them at the end there. So once you get those hand tight, go ahead and get your torque wrench. And these are going to be torqued at 8.7, 9 foot-pounds, right around there. Alright, so as you saw, it's kind of hard to get a torque wrench into that bottom one there. So you just kind of got to judge that one. Next, I'll go ahead and open up my timing belt kit. Also got this from Rock Auto, TCK 286, and it was on sale for, I think it was like 21 bucks is all. Let's go ahead and pull that out. And this is also the Gates kit. So you got your new belt, and I'll show you real quick. This is what the old belt looked like. Wasn't too bad. Little cracks there, here and there, but not bad at all. So here's your new idler pulley, and then your new tensioner pulley in that. So let's go ahead and stick this idler pulley on real quick. So take your new pulley. Here's the old one. So you want to just make sure you got the bolt the right way, because you can see it's different on each side. So the bolt is going to go on this flat side here, just like that. So let's go ahead and put that on. Grab your 14 millimeter. Grab your torque wrench, and you're going to want to torque that to 33 foot-pounds. Next, go ahead and grab your old tensioner pulley, and what you want to do, take your bolt out, and on the back side here, slide out this here. Take your new one, go ahead and stick that in, and then the bolt goes through on this side. So let's go ahead and put that in. So now let's go ahead and install that. Grab your torque wrench, and I'll tighten that to 19 foot-pounds. Then go ahead and grab your new tensioner. That's what that looks like. They got it zip tied. You can see it's compressed. So when we get our timing belt on, all I got to do is pull this off, and that'll expand and tighten on the belt there. And this was also from Rock Auto. Ultra Power, that was the only one they had in stock, so I went ahead and got that one. So grab your two 10mm bolts, and let's go ahead and put this in. Once you get those tight, grab your torque wrench, and those are going to be 8.7 or 9 foot-pounds. So before I go ahead and start putting the belt on, as you can see, it's kind of oily right under the crankshaft here. So I'm wondering if that crankshaft seal's bad. I did order one, and I do have it, so I'm going to see if I can replace that real quick. So I think first we need to pull this crankshaft sensor off here. It's going to be a 10mm. And then I think this just comes out of here. Yeah, it just kind of pops off there. And now should be able to remove this key here. Make sure you don't lose this. And then you can see how it kind of lifts up right there. So make sure you put that back in the same way. And now we should be able to pull this sprocket off. Just kind of like that. And grab my light. You can kind of see. Yeah, you can kind of see that little bit of oil right there. Right in there. So it looks like it is leaking a little bit. And you can see how it's kind of wet down here on the pan. So go ahead and replace that. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get this out yet. I'm going to try some picks maybe. See if I can stab through the rubber. And then pry it out that way. Just seeing if I can break through the rubber and then just kind of curl this and see if it'll come out that way. There we go. Just like that. Go ahead and wipe up around here. Get some of that oil soaked up. Alright, so I got my new seal here. It's going to be a Temp 1181. So that looks like, and let's just compare it to my old one here. Looks about the same. Looks like maybe it's a little thinner though, but we'll give it a shot. And then I'm just gonna take some more of this dielectric grease will work, or normal grease. I'm just gonna coat the new seal in it, just so it goes in there easy. Just gonna rub that on here. And then go ahead and put your new seal in. Try to go in evenly. Just pressing it in there by hand. What you can also do is grab your old seal and use that to push on it. So just kind of like that. Just make sure it's all the way in, and I think we're good. Then you go ahead and just wipe off your crank position sensor here. And I just kind of went ahead and cleaned some of this up a little better as well. And I'm just going to put a little grease on this crankshaft here for the sprocket, just so that sprocket slides on a little easier. Grab your key, and remember this part here goes down, so just in there like that. Go ahead and put your crankshaft position sensor back on here. I'm not sure on the torque on that, so I'm just going hand tight. Next, go ahead and grab your new timing belt. It's probably going to be the hardest part. It's getting this routed correctly and tight. But I'm going to try to get it down on the crankshaft sprocket first. Down and around on that. Same with that idler pulley there. And just see if we can kind of get it to where it needs to be. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure you keep that belt tight. So if you can, hold one hand down below and then work these away up here. This goes below the water pump here. Alright, so I think I got it all. Just double check your marks again. Make sure your sprockets didn't move. And you want to make sure all these teeth, let me zoom in here. Make sure all those teeth are on the sprocket. And same with down below here. You see they're fully in the sprocket. And you can see we're underneath the water pump there. On the left there, over the tensioner pulley, and then also over the idler pulley. And let's take a look at the left sprocket real quick. And again, this one's hard to tell. Let's see if I can get a good angle here or not. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can see my thumb right here. White marks right there. And so we're still aligned with the mark up here. So we should be good. So once you've double checked your marks are all good, let's go ahead and put tension on the timing belt. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the zip tie on here. And just make sure you're all the way on these pulleys here. And go ahead and remove this. So now we got tension on the timing belt. So before we go ahead and start putting everything back together, since our timing belt's on and everything and tension's on it, let's go ahead and stick our crankshaft bolt back in here really quick, and we'll turn the engine over by hand a few times just to make sure our timing marks still line up correctly and we're not feeling any binding or anything. Let's get that in there. Grab your 19mm. And just give it a couple cranks by hand. Like I said, just make sure you don't feel any binding or anything. Just go all the way around a couple times. You can see our white mark there. Let's just get that lined up again with the top there. That's about right. Not too much. About right there. And as you can see, we're good right there. Let's go ahead and check up top here. And you can see we're lined up right there on our right sprocket. And again, hard to see. You can see the white mark right there, and that's lined up right there. So we should be good to start putting everything back together now. So we'll go ahead and put our motor mount bracket on, and also the bolts that go through the water pump. And there's one short one which will go on the bottom here, and then these top two are longer ones. Let's go ahead and stick that down in there. Once you get those hand tight, go ahead and grab your torque wrench, and we're going to tighten those to 33 foot-pounds. Then you go ahead and remove your crankshaft bolt again. Next, you can go ahead and grab your sprocket washer, the one we took off at the beginning there, and the curved edge goes outward. Stick that back on, and let's go ahead and put our lower timing cover on, and just make sure your gasket's in place and everything on here, and cleaned it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and put that on. And again, just make sure the gasket stays in, because that's what protects your timing belt from water and dust and dirt. Once you get that tight, let's go ahead and stick this bolt in here on this top motor mount. You move on to your left sprocket, the back one there. Again, just make sure your gasket's in good shape and is in there. And again, I was missing a bolt on here. Maybe I can find one at the scrap yard or something. And same thing on your right sprocket. Check your gasket, looks good. And I went ahead and took one of these bolts and I put in that missing one on the back sprocket there, just because it's so hard to get to. And then I'll find a spare bolt to put in one of these, since it's a lot easier to get to. Next, we can go ahead and install our dipstick tube. I went ahead and cleaned it up, and then just make sure this gasket's in good shape. So go ahead and stick that up in here. And this bolt's really hard to get down in there. So a little trick you can do is just put a little grease on it. Stick it in your socket. That way the bolt won't fall out. And then you can stick it down in there. And like I said, it's hard to see, but you can stick your dipstick tube back in, and there you can see the grease where the bolt is. So now we should be ready to stick our harmonic balancer or crankshaft pulley on here. So go ahead and line up your key. And rock that back and forth to get it on. And I just coated the threads on the crankshaft bolt with a little oil. Go ahead and screw that in. So go ahead and grab your torque wrench, and we're going to torque that to 180 foot-pounds. You can see that it doesn't fit in there too well, so be careful with that. that. Now we can go ahead and start putting our power steering pump back together. You may need to take a flathead screwdriver, stick in there to push that bolt through on the bottom. So you can get your lower nut on here. Because that bolt just wants to move on you back behind here. Once you get it started, you're alright. Alright, so I got that started. Then go ahead and put this one in. Grab your power steering, reservoir here. Stick that back on. Hose clamp back on, and then with these clamps, try to get it in the same spot as it was before. If not, you may have a leak. And then with that still loose, go ahead and grab your power steering belt. And I'm gonna have to reuse mine because new ones didn't come in yet, so I'll replace them later. And then go down below, get your belt around the crankshaft. And then go ahead and stick it around your power steering pump here. And looks like I may need to loosen this up a little bit here. Looks like I'm not on the crankshaft all the way down there. There we go. Just like that. And let's go ahead and start tightening this a little bit. And I'll go ahead and start tightening these some. And we'll check the tension. So go ahead and check your tension. You don't want it too tight. I think right about, it's kind of hard for you guys to see. Just feel for it. It should be good about right there. So once you get your belt tightened and satisfied with it, I usually just take a finger, push on it, and maybe a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch play is where I like to keep it at. So that looks good. So let's go ahead and tighten this bolt here all the way. And then same with your lower one, go ahead and tighten that. Now we can go ahead and put our power steering reservoir back in here. Next you can go ahead and route your serpentine belt. Grab your 14mm. Along with your other wrench here. Pull down. And go ahead and slide that on the crank here. And relieve tension. Then go ahead and grab your motor mount and feed that down in through here. Go ahead and grab your other mount. And grab your 17 millimeter, and we'll tighten this up. And just make sure this electrical wire loom here, push back on there. With our motor mount back on, we can go ahead and drop the jack from the oil pan. Alright, so that's pretty much going to be it for the timing belt components. I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil and replace the oil filter just to be safe in case some coolant got down in that dipstick tube when we were pulling that water pump. I just want to be safe and just put some fresh oil in it. But I'm not going to record that because you guys should know how to do that. And then after that, I'll go ahead and move on to the thermostat. So with my oil draining, go ahead and move on to the thermostat, which is going to be down in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off real quick. Just pull your wires off. Grab you a flathead and just turn these. It lifts right off. Alright, so thermostat housing is down in here. Kind of hard to get to. You got your lower radiator hose here, and it looks like there's a bolt right here, and then there's a plug-in as well, and a bolt on the back side. So I think what I'm going to do, so I can get my camera in there so you guys can see, I'm going to go ahead and pull this battery and get that out of the way, and then hopefully that'll give us enough room. Just grab a 13 millimeter. Positive is going to be a 10 on this car. Grab a 10. And since I got the coolant drained and everything, I'm going to go ahead and pull this reservoir and I'll clean that out real good. This should just slide out of here. And then taking a look inside here, you can see how nasty it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hose that out and everything and get it nice and clean. So as you can see, that gave us a lot more room with that battery out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and take off this lower radiator hose off the thermostat housing. That way we can see a little better here. So I'm just going to pop this off first. Go ahead and squeeze this clamp. Shove some towels under here if this decides to leak. There we go. Go ahead and plug this back in so it doesn't get broke. I'll leave that one rag under there for when we pull it. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug this. Just with your finger here, should be able to push on this tab. And it looks like we got some ground wires coming from this going to this bottom bolt here. So let's go ahead and pull those. Grab a 10mm. Let's pull that off. Then just above that, looks like we got another one right here. And then one more 10mm bolt. It's kind of hard to see. You can see it right back in there with the blue paint on it. Let's go ahead and remove that one. Now let's see if we can remove it. Keep our rags back under here just in case. And let's see if we can just pull on this. Before I pull it, take note, you can see the air valve is right there on top. So when we go to put our new one in, let's make sure we get that up on top again. So go ahead and pull this out. May need to use some pliers. It's stuck in there pretty good. Jeez. So that's what that looks like. And I guess it even says right there, up on it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and run to the parts store. I ordered one from AutoZone. So I'll go ahead and pick that up, and I also need to get some oil as well. And then I'll be back. Alright, so I just got back from AutoZone and got my new thermostat, and then also had to buy a gasket because it does not come with a gasket, and just went with the Duralast 4127, and then the gasket 35162. And you can see it's a little bit different than the one that was in there, but it still got the air valve there. Size wise, you can see this one was a little thicker and it's a lot heavier actually than this one, but I think it'll work. So go ahead and put your gasket on, and it just kind of slides in there. And then note this piece here goes at the top, so I'm just gonna align that with the air valve, kind of like on the old one. So just go ahead and slip this on. Pretty much like that. I'll just show you real quick. You can see at the top of the housing there has that little indentation to where that piece goes for the gasket. So go ahead and put your thermostat in, and then I forgot to mention the stock OEM temp on these is 170 degrees. So go ahead and stick that in. Again, make sure your gasket's lined up correctly. Go ahead and grab your housing. I'm going to try to get this bottom one started first. Alright, so I looked and I couldn't really find anything on what these are supposed to be torqued at. So I'm just going to kind of judge it on my own. Just hand tight. Then go ahead and grab your wires here. Stick your bolt through there. And go ahead and plug in your coolant temp sensor. Then go ahead and grab your coolant hose. Stick that back on. And then try to get that lined up exactly how it was so you don't have any leaks on this hose. And go ahead and put this back as well. Then go ahead and put your coolant reservoir back in. You can see I cleaned it. It's better than it was, but it ain't perfect. Stick your battery tray back in. And the cable for your cruise control. Also your front one here. So now we should be ready to fill the coolant, and I'm just using just a regular Prestone green stuff, and I just buy the concentrate, and I get some distilled water as well. And what I'll do is I'll take, this was an empty clean one, so I'll go ahead and pour half of this into that, and then I'll take my distilled water and I'll put half a gallon in this and then half gallon in that to where they're equal, and that puts us at a 50-50 mix. It's a lot cheaper to buy the concentrate than the stuff that already is 50-50, because then you're just paying for water. So now we can begin to fill. Go ahead and make sure your radiator drain plug underneath is tight. And then as you're filling, you'll want to squeeze this upper radiator hose, get some of the air out. And this is my second gallon. As you saw, you got to go kind of slow, if not it makes a big old mess. So it looks like we're full there for now until we start it. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the overflow reservoir here. And then it's kind of hard to see, but there's a line right where my finger's at. See it right there? I'm going to fill that to the max, because that's the max cold line. So I got my oil all changed. Go ahead and put our wheel and tire back on now. Then go ahead and torque your wheel to 80 foot-pounds. Alright, so now we should be ready to start. I'm going to go ahead and leave the radiator cap off for now, because we're probably going to have to burp some of the air out and put some more coolant in. And then just double check your oil level, make sure that's full. And then also your power steering. You can see we're over right now, but that'll probably go down once it starts flowing. So let's go ahead and start it. And then you go ahead and turn your heater on here. And then with it running, you can see coolant starting to rise, so you can go ahead and put your cap back on before that makes a mess. And you can see our power steering went down, but still looks like we're in the normal level. And it sounds like my alternator may be making some noise. But everything else sounds good. Sounds normal. Let's take a look underneath. And then to check for leaks, you can see up front there's some coolant, but that was from coming out of the radiator up top there that spilled. That looks good. And then there's a shot from the crankshaft, and it looks like that seal's holding up good. Don't have any leaks there. And check the radiator petcock there, that looks good. And then also the thermostat housing looks good, no leaks. So I'm going to go ahead and let this warm up, get up to temperature so that thermostat opens up, and I'll go ahead and top it off. Alright, so as you can see, pretty much up to normal operating temperature, so that thermostat went ahead and opened up, and also got hot air coming out of the vents as well, so we should be good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let that cool for a while, and then I'll double check my radiator level, also my coolant overflow reservoir there. And then as you can see, my power steering fluid actually rose a little bit, and it's right on, so I didn't have to add any to that. And then once the car warmed up, that pulley stopped making noise, so it's either a bearing on my alternator pulley going out or the belt tensioner pulley. So I may do a video in the future on that, so watch for that. And then also went ahead and that little kit I got gives you a new timing belt sticker, so I went ahead and filled that out as well. So that's going to do it for the video. Again, this was a 1999 Honda Accord 3.0 V6. I went ahead and replaced the timing belt along with thermostat, water pump, and also the crankshaft seal as well. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and check out some of my other videos. I got quite a few on this Honda, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.